Hello, welcome to another video. I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about making a video on for a while, but haven't. And that is the death penalty. Now, a bill is working its way through my home state of Iowa. It's working its way through the state legislature to make Iowa a death penalty state for the first time since, I believe, the early to mid-60s. And this is a policy issue that has division on both, or I should say, has division within the right. There are, people that I know who I would categorize as solid conservatives whom I disagree with on the death penalty. And I just want to give my feelings on the death penalty and whether I believe it should be legal and, in what ways I think it should be legal. So, for starters, many people on the conservative right who are also religious will say, well, I'm against the death penalty because I'm pro-life and, you can only, to be the most pro-life you can be, you have to be anti-death penalty. Well, the fact is that's actually not true. Obviously, I've spoken on this channel before about the fact that I am Catholic, and St. Thomas More, patron saint of lawyers within the Catholic Church. He was a lawyer during the time of King Henry VIII. That man handed down death sentences during his time as judge in England. And that man he's a now canonized saint within the Catholic Church. Saint King Wenceslas of Hungary, another Catholic saint. He had his pagan mother executed during his reign. So to say that being pro-death penalty while simultaneously calling yourself a religious Catholic makes you some sort of Joe Bidenite Catholic that doesn't actually follow the church's teachings is completely wrong. But also, the reason I am pro-life is because the life of the child within an abortion is a innocent life. The people who are receiving the death penalty have done atrocious things. So, obviously, as you know, I am pro-death penalty. But what are some of the problems that I have with the death penalty in the United States where it is implemented? One of the problems that I have is that for example, I live in western Iowa, so I'm right next to Nebraska. Nebraska is a death penalty state. They took the death penalty off the books, and then there was a petition to get it put on the ballot to re-implement the death penalty. The weird thing is that Nebraska seems like they want to have the death penalty on the books. The measure passed easily when it was put back on the books. But it's almost like they want to have it on the books but not actually use it. The last person that Nebraska put to death was a man named Kerry D. Moore, who murdered several people back in the, I think, mid to late 70s. And then it seems like, oh, well, okay, we killed him, but now we don't want to do it again. There's many people who are still sitting on the death penalty, or on death row in Nebraska. I believe the man who killed Amber Harris, which, if you're familiar with the Amber Alert, came from her. She was a teenage girl who was abducted off of a school bus back in, I think, like 2007 or so. The man who killed her is sitting on death row in Nebraska. One that did not make as many headlines, a man by the name of Nico Jenkins. He was a gang member who killed several people. He's still sitting on death row and will probably die on death row. They're not going to execute him. They seem like they want to have the death penalty but not actually use it. So the problem, and even then, with Kerry D. Moore, I believe he was executed around the time of 2018. He'd been on death row since, like I said, the mid to late 70s when he committed those crimes. One of the problems with the death penalty is that even when it is implemented in certain states, they keep getting stays of execution and stays of execution and stays of execution. If your parents punish you 30 years down the road for something that you did, is it going to do anything in actually, changing your behavior as a child? No, because you don't face the punishment in a timely manner. One of the other problems that I have with the death penalty in the United States is actually how we go about killing people. I actually do not like the use of lethal injection. I would actually prefer hangings. And the reason that hangings were done is because they were public. They were violent. You would watch that person fall to their death, and you would know what they were guilty of, and you knew in the back of your mind, hey, if you do those things, if you do the things that person did, that's going to be you up there next time. Alright, so maybe don't commit those crimes. The problem with lethal injection is there's actually really no violence to it. You just kind of watch this person and then they go uneventfully from breathing to not breathing. Nothing really happens. Also, you do it in a building, away from the public eye. Most people don't even know what's going on. So, the entire idea of the death penalty is to have it as a reminder, a deterrent for other people. When you keep getting stays of execution and you kill people in really uneventful ways, it doesn't really do anything. In order for the death penalty to work, we need to have it be swift, we need to have it be public. And it wouldn't help if it was violent. So that it is being swift, so that it actually concentrates the mind. As the saying goes, hanging concentrates the mind. It makes the person think about what they did, and maybe they will repent of their sins before they die. It needs to be public so that it is a deterrent for the rest of the public, for the rest of the people in the community, to not commit those horrid actions. And I think it should be violent so that it makes people uncomfortable. Really, yes, it makes people uncomfortable. And that's one of the things of it being by having it be uncomfortable and violent to watch, it also limits its overuse, because you want to save that form of punishment to the most execrable of all execrable criminals. The problem is that we want to have our cake and eat it too. We live in a very sanitary society where death is something that we really don't have to deal with anymore. You watch those St. Jude commercials, and they say that 1 in 5 children with cancer will not survive, which is sad for every single one of those parents that loses their child to cancer. But the flip side of that coin is that 4 out of 5 will survive. Alright? You can check my math here. I believe that's like an 80% survival rate. Think about anything with an 80% survival rate. Hey, that sounds like great odds. Alright, so there's many things there's many diseases within our society that used to be certain death sentences that we're now getting 80% survival rates out of. Death is not a looming threat to many people in our current society. And I think that's part of why we implemented the lethal injection policy, because we wanted to keep that sanitariness of death while simultaneously having the death penalty. So, quick, public, and violent does the death penalty need to be. So, do I support the bill making its way through the Iowa legislature? The answer is not really, though. I mean, I would love to live in a state that has the death penalty implemented, that has the death penalty on the books, but only if it's actually implemented, and only if it is actually implemented in a way that does anything.